With most of us that are still in contention, this week means it's winner take all. So lock on in as Matt and I provide you with 10 great names that are going to help you bring home a Locked On Fantasy Baseball Championship this week on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allow 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly, truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and it will give you notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, most importantly to Matt and I, guys, join us on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience through text message alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the code all lowercase LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play 5. Guys, I'm just excited. I'll be honest with you. This is my favorite time of year when it comes to fantasy baseball. Well, there's two favorite times. This is one of the two. If you guys made it to the promised land and we helped at all, sound off in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. I know I'm in a couple championships myself. I'm in the Listener League Championship, so you know what? I'm representing the podcast in the Listener League. So take a little bit of credit there. But we're still helping you guys. We're still going to help you get through this last week. And then, you know what? Even next week, I know some leagues go a little bit longer. We'll be here for you next week as well with these must-add players. Matt, we actually had a call-up. We got one more. I think this is probably the last big one of the season. Why don't we talk about him?
Yeah, let's hop into it. So I can't even say his first name, but I'm going to go with Little
Luis
Acuna.
Angel.
Okay, Luisangel Acuna. So here's the deal, right? Like for him, he's a good call-up. Called up for the Mets. And here's the thing. I'm not crazy about him for fantasy baseball purposes. He's had a decent average his whole minor league career, like had a 266, 277, 294 this year, 258 batting average. But the thing is, he's really just stolen bases and he'll be runs. Like that's going to be his true, pretty much tagline for him, essentially. So when it comes to Acuna, you just got to take it like this. He's going to be valuable to make the push. And pretty much if you pick him up this week, then you're essentially going to lock up stolen bases if he gets that everyday play and gets off base. There's going to be probably a stolen base each and every time he plays. We could see like a Jose Caballero kind of type look on it, but with better batting average and on just a better team, so the run should be higher, right? Even though Lindor just went down, you still have Alonso hitting the cover off the ball and things like that, where Acuna should be able to take advantage of being on that team. So honestly, like, I'm adding him, not my highest priority, but he is fun to talk about because, another call-up.
Yeah, and I think you said it. It's Ronald Acuna's little brother, and so there's the name carries weight to it, right? Luis Angel is 6% owned on Yahoo. Matt mentioned he plays for those New York Mets. Second in short eligibility. His first 2 games, he didn't start both, but the second game, the one he didn't start, he still got 3 at bats. I don't think you call a kid up like this and just not play him. So I think he is going to see a lot of at-bats. As Matt mentioned, though, I think it's just a speed play here with Acuna. The batting average did look good throughout the minors. But I'll say this. He struggled in Double-A when it came to batting average last year. I was a 243 in Double-A. In 2022, it was a 224 in Double-A batting average. And then this year, 258. So I don't think he's going to be a plus batting average, at least not right off the jump. Your deepers, your 15s, your NL onlys. I think that's where Acuna is going to be, actionable. Anything shallower than that, probably not. But as Matt mentioned, it's a fun name. Luis Angel Acuna, Ronald Acuna's little brother. Luis Angel plays for the Mets, 6% owned on Yahoo. Let's move on to, we actually got a couple of Chicago Cubs up next, but I'm going to save Matt's favorite of the two for him. So let's talk about Michael Busch first. The Cubs are looking good, and, I think the young guns have a lot to do with it. Michael Busch, having a strong first full campaign, ups and downs, but on the total, it's 139 games for Michael Busch, 253 batting average, 69 runs, 18 homers, 60 RBIs, 2 steals. Busch had a 2 home run game. It did come at Coors on September 15th, went 3 for 5 in that game, 4 for 5 on September 9th with a homer, 3 for 4 on the 13th with a homer. So, Michael Busch is heating up. He's been hitting 6th, driving in a lot of RBIs for those Cubs. Michael Busch is 39% owned on Yahoo. I know he's been picked up and dropped a lot. Busch is something to be pretty excited about, next year. I'll be honest with you. The underlying stuff doesn't look crazy in a lot of areas. He looks good in certain things, doesn't look great in others. So I think next year is really going to be a make or break year for Busch. With a solid campaign this year, I think he's either going to take that step, in the right direction where we see a little bit more power, a little bit more batting average as he finds his footing, or I think we're going to go the other way. I don't think we're going to see the in between here with Michael Busch. But for at least the foreseeable future, the next week while he's hot, add him and enjoy the production.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Busch is definitely somebody that's just been streaky, but when he's been streaky, he's been good. And honestly, we got 1 week to go. This is the push. So streaky is your best friend right now. Pick up every streaky person you humanly can and just say, okay, cool, I'm going to annihilate them. Like Dom and I are going up against each other in the championship this week, and one of us is probably going to have him on our team. So it's a matter of who's waking up at 3 a.m. when, our picks refresh, because we limit how many we do, because otherwise Dom and I would just stream the living heck out of the league. So,
yeah.
It's going to be like pretty much something like that. But like next year, the implications are going to be interesting for Busch, but we'll get into him literally in a week. We'll get into what next year is going to look like. I'm pretty excited. I love championship week. I love being in season, but preseason, all the hype and expectations get me really tickled. But let's move on to this next guy here. Let's talk about Pete Crow-Armstrong, the better one of the two. Dom, you have no shot at getting him in any league because I have him. So Pete Crow is awesome. So here's the deal, right? Pete Crow has just been like up and down, pretty much all his major league, appearances until recently. The last month has been absolutely bonkers. 21 runs, 5 bombs, 20 ribs, 4 stolen bases, and batting .322 on the month. Pete Crow, is still pretty much owned 55%. So like he's out there. You need to add him. I've been talking about him for the last 3 weeks. The fact that he's still under-owned, you need to do. He's going to be the difference maker. He is heating up again, and he's really caught stride. He had a bomb today as we're recording. So Sunday. Okay, he's just been rocking and rolling. So I'm digging it, and I think that he needs to be added. Also, too, he's a stolen base maniac. In the minor leagues, he's had 37 stolen bases and 32. So both over 2 years. I apologize. I'm a little out of it. Essentially, Pete Crow-Armstrong is going to be a 5-category contributor. You need to add him now. The possibilities are limitless. I love the fact that he had 20 home run season in 2023 through 438 at bats. So I think the power is legit. He might be a full package. He'll probably never be like a first round, kind of type player, but top 50, top 60 player is where I'm probably going to have him ranked next year. I'm very excited and bullish on Pete Crow-Armstrong. And for this week, he will win you a championship. That I promise you, because he's going to win one against Dom this week.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. We'll see about that. But I do love Pete Crow-Armstrong. Matt, you mentioned it. We've been talking about this kid for the last at least 3 weeks, if not month. The 55% ownership is just weird to me, especially with how hot he's been. I'll say this. I have a great comp for him, too. I think it's Jarren Duran. I think he could be very Jarren Duran-ish next year with very, very good speed. Power is okay. The runs and the RBIs, I think, are going to be very good for him in that Cubs lineup next year. As for this year, Matt broke him down very, very well. With that being said, though, we have two more bats. And then a bunch of starting pitchers that are going to help you pull out a championship next week. And once again, those names are coming up next. You've heard us talk about You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We will have something a little bit different for you now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with YouTube TV's base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment you can cancel anytime. And guys, that's just such a great offer with football being around, especially if you're out of it in baseball. You can easily lock in football. And with this great deal from FanDuel, you're watching every game easily. So once again, take up that opportunity with FanDuel now.
Sorry.
And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch over to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for your everyday to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on the YouTube or free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And then once again, we are introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As the season wraps up, you can rely on Matt and I for our dynamic content, get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, call-up notifications, injury actions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, where the path to your victories begin. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. Whew. And Matt, as you know, brother, that is always a lot for me. I think anybody. So I'm just going to pass it back off to you if you don't mind.
I mind. You have to go. It's fine. I'm kidding. All right. So our next guy up here is Trevor Story of the Boston Red Sox, 18% owned. And we've been talking about him, and, I'm pretty happy and surprised with his first appearance back, of essentially how he's been since the injury happened. I'm all about it. I think that we're going to see a nice little streak from him, and he'll give us a lot of hype for next year, which again will probably fall flat on our face. So let's not buy into it. But this week, I'm definitely adding him. If you're down in shortstop or you just need a bat that's contributing, he can contribute in 5 categories. Exactly what he did this week: 3 runs, a bomb, 2 ribs, 2 stolen bases, and batting .318. Trevor Story was a really good player back in his heyday. Obviously, doesn't have the power like he was hitting back in Colorado, but it's still there. They're still, even like 70% of that. We're in great shape. All we need him to do is hit 1 home run to 2 home runs, get you a couple stolen bases on the days off for your other players, and you're a happy camper. So if you just lost Corey Seager, but you still were able to get over the hump, Trevor Story might be that good pickup. So, excuse me, add him now.
Yeah, Matt, good breakdown on Trevor's Story there. Another guy we've been talking about for at least 2 to 3 weeks, and if you picked him up, you benefited from it last week. I picked him up in a couple spots, including the Listener League. Definitely helped me get to the ship there. 3 for 4 on the 14th for Story with a steal and a run. Then on September 13th, Story went 2 for 4 with a homer and 2 RBIs. Stole another bag on September 9th. So, the power and speed is starting to come along. And, this is almost still, maybe his 3rd week into spring training, basically, if you were counting it like that. Only 15 games played, so I think he's just finding his stride. And I don't know if there's going to be, you have the historic tape out on Story, but who knows? Maybe he's made some adjustments, something like that. There's not enough time left for pitchers to adjust to whatever Story's doing. I think he's going to ride it out the rest of the way and be useful. Once again, Story's plays for pros. Boston Red Sox, 18% owned on Yahoo, shortstop eligible. Pick him up where you can. We're going to finish up the bats with a catcher here. Hunter Goodman of the Colorado Rockies, basically just been hot, Adam now. They play a bunch of games in Coors next week. Goodman actually had a monster game on September 13th. He went 3 for 4 with 2 homers and 7 RBIs. On September 8th, he homered. He's been playing, he's been hitting while you can add him. He's 4% owned. It's probably more of a deeper league play with Hunter Goodman. He is catcher, first and outfield eligible. You could swing him around your lineup. Just get him in there while he's playing. If you need a catcher, once again, it's probably more of a deep league cut. Hunter Goodman, Colorado Rockies.
For sure. I like him. Again, I like the deep league cut. That's kind of where I was leaning myself. So, a great take. I honestly don't have anything else to add at this point. We're going to move on to now our pitcher end. Shane Baz of the Tampa Bay Rays. I love him. I love him. I love him. I love him. He obviously didn't look, too brilliant as when he first came back, but then figured it out. And now Baz has been performing great, and he's still only 44% owned, which is the wildest part to me. He should be 100% owned because this kid the most, could be the next Tarek Skubal, essentially, this pickup. But hey, if he's out there, you need to add him. 66% of league, no, less than that. I'm sorry, 56% of leagues. My math is off. He needs to be added. In all the leagues I'm in, because everybody's smart, he's already on everybody's team. We all knew this was coming. The last month has been bananas. 24 innings pitched, 2 wins, 18 Ks, a 1.88 ERA, and a .83 WHIP. Fantastic numbers. He can have a 10 strikeout game. He can do it all for you. Shane Baz needs to be added. I don't even need to talk about him so much. I'm going to literally, at this point of the podcast, you're going to see a bunch of little ads, not ads, little pop-ups up right at the top of every time we've talked about Shane Baz, so that you can get an understanding of how much we like Shane Baz.
Yeah, Matt, you hit the nail on the head. I had him stashed in a bunch of these where I was able to do it. And it's just been paying off. As you mentioned, his last 5 starts have been solid. He's rounding into form. Another guy that had to get a little bit of rust off of him, hadn't pitched a lot of innings in the past couple of years. Now that he's rocking and rolling, he's going to be a sneaky pick. I'll be honest with you. He's going to be somebody. I mean, well, now that I'm looking at his numbers, the K per 9 isn't there, but the ERA and WHIP is there. So he might be somebody like, I want to say like a Bailey Ober, where, they finished the season strong last year and they started creeping up draft boards. And by the time, draft season came around, you had to take Ober as like your SP3, which bothered me, but it still paid off because Ober's had a good year. I think Baz is going to have that kind of hype around him. But once again, 44% owned on Yahoo for Baz is crazy. Get him on your team if you can. One of the better starting pitchers that's still widely available. Let's move on to this next guy. We talked about him when he we talked about him, I think, the day that he got called up. We recorded earlier in the day before he got called up. We haven't got to talk about him since. Kumar Rocker of the Texas Rangers, right? Had a stellar debut. And it's funny, the way we talked about him, like, hey, he might come up, there's a chance, stash him if you can. And then bang, he comes up. So if you listen to us, you made out. Rocker's up to 25% owned on Yahoo, and it's funny because the Rangers rotation looks a little something like DeGrom, Scherzer, Rocker, Leiter. So you got like the 2 young guys, the 2 older dudes in there. It's interesting. It's cool to see. Against Seattle, Rocker's first start, September 12th, 4 innings, 7 strikeouts, gave up a run, a 1.25 WHIP in that one. He goes against Toronto on the 19th. Toronto's been manageable. He can manage that lineup. Let's see if he gets a little bit more length. Let's see if we can get off the 5, maybe 6 innings. At least if you get 5, he's eligible for the win. If you can get the 6, the quality starts in play 2. The strikeouts have been great. Kumar Rocker always had the talent when he pitched at Vanderbilt with his boy Jack Leiter. Won some championships. Just really, really good starting pitcher. Finally starting to come into his own. Add Kumar Rocker where you can.
Yeah, he's going to be fun. I got to say, I'm impressed. I didn't think it was going to translate this early, truthfully. And, he's somebody that could definitely be a difference maker going into this week. Spot start Seattle, right? I mean, not Seattle. Toronto. Toronto, like Dom said, is manageable. I'll play those odds. What day is he pitch, if you don't mind me asking?
19th, I believe it was.
Okay, so middle of the week, which is perfect. So Wednesday, you don't have to decide today, but I would probably add him now just to go ahead and get the edge. I always prep. I always look ahead, see what that team's got. How could I beat them? And that's exactly what you go out and you do, especially this week. But let's move on. Coming up next, we have guys like Albert Suarez, Kade Povich, and Kyle Hendricks. And, what do we think about them? Where are we prioritizing? Things like that. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this. All right. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDON and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Exploring my skills on Prize Picks this season adds an extra layer of excitement to daily fantasy sports. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 really fast. Prize Picks is incredibly user-friendly. I can make my selections and submit my entries in less than 60 seconds. And as the host of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, I might as well give you some great picks to get you started off with. Opt for Ronald Blanco to have higher than 5.5 strikeouts as next start. Opt for Brandon Marsh to have higher than 0.5 total hits in his next game. And opt for Juan Soto to hit a dinger in his next game. Download the Prize Pick app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Again, use the code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. But all right, as promised, we had Albert Suarez coming up, and might as well just hop right into him, right? Mr. Suarez of the Baltimore Orioles, 31% owned, has been pretty darn good in his last start. He went out against Boston, handled them through 6 innings, got the win, 8 Ks, a 1.5 ERA with a 1 whip. Somehow he managed to get lit up by the White Sox, but it's whatever because against the Colorado Rockies at Colorado, he handled himself great at a 2.57 ERA with 4 Ks through 7. And the start before that handled Houston pretty well as well, 5.2 innings, 3 Ks, a 3.18 ERA with a 106 whip. You've been able to get him to go out there, be solid, and be a good fantasy asset for you. He has the potential to go in and have obviously an 8K game, which is fantastic. That's what you want out of a starting pitcher off the waiver wire, that upside. But at the same time, well, at least have a floor of not destroying your ERA on the week. Plus, he's going up against San Francisco, not my favorite team. And honestly, he should be able to handle them pretty easily. They're not really impressive to me. Joe Musgrove, yes, who has been on the rebound, handled them really nicely over the weekend. So honestly, I think Albert Suarez, even though he's not on the level of Joe Musgrove, I think he'll still be able to give him the same kind of business. So I'm adding Albert Suarez now.
Yeah, this one, to be frank, pisses me off because Albert Suarez was somebody that we talked about, before the White Sox start, recommended him. I added him in a bunch of spots, started him against the White Sox, and, took a lot of flack for it. But, it burnt me myself. So, I'm somebody big on practice and what I preach. He burnt me too. But Matt said it well. It was good in his last one against Boston, against San Francisco. I don't really have too much to add except, it's not a long-term play. Most stuff right now is just short-term. Suarez is 34 years old. He's not somebody we're looking at for next year or anything of the sort. Just get him in your lineup. Good matchup. I think he could handle the team. And, as Matt mentioned, a couple strikeouts, never going to hurt anybody. Albert Suarez, 31% owned on Yahoo. Baltimore Orioles starting pitcher. Add him now. Let's move from one to another. Let's talk about Kade Povich. Kade Povich has been interesting, man, since he's got the call, has had mixed reviews. Another Baltimore Orioles starting pitcher, another Baltimore Orioles prospect that's, has a lot of upside. So 2 out of his last 3 have been solid. One of those was against the White Sox. 7.1 innings for Povich against the White Sox on September 3rd. Got the win. 10 strikeouts, no earned. 0.6 whip. The Boston one after that was tough. Gave up a bunch of runs. Only got 5 strikeouts. 4.2 innings, then bounced back against Detroit in his last one, went 5, got 8 strikeouts, gave up a couple of runs, but had an 0.8 whip. And guess what? He goes back to Detroit again in his start after that. So he handled it once, can do it again. And at worst case, he's going to rack up a bunch of strikeouts. I like that for Povich. Young, he is actually somebody that, I think could be a deep sleeper next year, maybe like the last starting pitcher on one of your teams. Hasn't had great results since he's got the call, but you know what? 2 out of his last 3 are strong, and he, has had a really good minor league career. So Povich is somebody that I do like, especially if it's just a streaming option for this upcoming week.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he just took a little bit of time to get used to the league, honestly.
Yeah.
Let me give you a little insight on what his minor league career looked like. 77 innings this year, 89 strikeouts, a 3.48 ERA with 1.10 whip. Pretty good stats, right? He never really been an ERA guy, but that's also just a development aspect too. But like his stuff is really good. He's had 2023 at 126 innings pitched and 171 strikeouts. He's a strikeout machine. So you can see why the whip would be a little bit higher. And probably was working on a few things over those couple seasons, but the strikeouts is something that's always kind of rung true. So he could be a difference maker if he decides to show up and, put his big boy pants on and, not try to strike out every single person, but just does his job and naturally gets the strikeouts, he'll probably have a 7 or 8K game for you and be able to kind of produce. So Kade Povich is a great stream this week. He's going to be a name we're going to be want to remember next year because I guarantee the value is going to be nice. He's going to be a nice pitcher. That's going to be your 6 or 7. It's going to be fantastic across the board. Oh yeah, it's my turn. So next guy, Kyle Hendricks. I'm off tonight. Kyle Hendricks, another one. I like him. I like him for this week. Let's put it that way. I don't want to say, hey, he's great for fantasy every single day because that's not happening. But I will say this. I'm digging him. He's still with the Cubs, 4% owned, and I don't have his matchup in front of me. Do you know who he's playing? Is it Oakland?
Hold on, bear with me. I got a little sidetracked.
But anyway, his last start at Colorado against Colorado, 6 innings, 7K Nationals. So they've not been great. So he could probably handle them pretty nicely. Look what he did to Colorado. Went 6 deep, got 7 Ks, got the win, a 1.5 ERA with a .83 WHIP. This was also in Colorado, so Coors Park. As easy as you can get a beer there from Coors Light Distillery, brewery, is as easy as a ball goes out the wall, out of the park. Even had a nice outing against Dodgers. Had a 4.15 ERA, but I'm not mad at that, especially against Dodgers. And then Pitt was able to handle, when it comes to Kyle Hendricks, the matchup is right. The matchup is right. And Washington is a matchup that's right. Kyle Hendricks still got a little bit of juice, not full-time juice, but juice enough for a stream. So add him now and take a sip of that stream. Yeah, that sounded bad.
Yeah. It's the good kind. It's the good kind of stream here with Kyle Hendricks, right? 4% owned for him, so he's widely available. And Matt broke him down well. He's all reliable, right? In those good matchups, we know we can count on him. I think he'll be able to handle the Nationals. I think CJ Abrams banged up. I know Dylan Cruz has been hitting a little bit, but they don't really have too many guys that are threatening me at this exact moment. So I'd like Kyle Hendricks to get the Nationals. Once again, he starts for those Chicago Cubs. 4% owned on Yahoo. You can get him in pretty much any league. Matt, we got a couple minutes here left. I've been tending to do this a lot at the end of the episode, just rambling about how this time of year you got to do what you got to do. We talk about it at the top, cut the fat, especially this week, man. There's no holding on to anybody. There's no tomorrow. Your keepers in your dynasty. If you're not keeping the guys for next season, you can easily cut them. Stream those starting pitchers if you need those stats. Get those bats in there on the off days. Work those matchups, and then sound off in the comments. Whoever you listen or watch, leave us a little comment. Let us know if we helped you out all this year. We just truly appreciate our everydayers and new listeners, coming in and just, being a part of this, letting Matt and us do this, for, part of our living. And we just truly appreciate it, guys.
For sure. I'm actually going to add a name.
Oh, let's do it. Oh, my bad. Let's go. Come on.
So this one is good. I'm mad that I have to tell you since I'm playing you. But Ian Anderson is now going to rejoin the Braves, it looks like, and he's got 2-start pitcher next week.
That's interesting.
So he pitches against the Reds, at Reds. But the second, and I'm not really thrilled since it's at Reds and it's his first time back, but the second start is at Miami. And I like that one a little bit better, and that's on Sunday. 2-start pitcher, and that's start for Tuesday. So it's not for Monday when you're listening for this. So it is not a same-day ad league. You can still add him. So Ian Anderson, I'm definitely going to go target when I hit the waiver wire at 3 a.m. I do have an alarm set for 3:01 to beat Dom there. Ian Anderson does need to be added. Him and those Braves, are trying to make a playoff push. Ian Anderson, if we remember who he was back in his heyday before the injury and that one poor season where he actually just got sent down. Ian Anderson was somebody that was being drafted and had expectations of being like the next name in pitching for baseball, essentially. I'm just excited to see what he's going to bring, for the team and everything of the sort, because, last time he was healthy, in 2021, 128 innings pitched, he had 124 strikeouts and he had a 3.58 ERA, and he was looking mighty fine out there. So do not sleep on Ian Anderson. Consider to add him now.
Yeah, I'll just give 2 cents. I'll add this in there. 14 starts for Ian Anderson in the minors this year across like 4 levels, actually. 3.63 ERA, 62 innings, 63 strikeouts, and a 1.29 whip. So not too shabby. But guys, with that being said, shout out to our new everydayers and new listeners making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. After you make us your first listen, go over to Locked On MLB and make them your second listen over there. Great stuff. They cover the league a little bit differently than we do. We do more of a fantasy take. They do more of just a straightforward MLB take. And you know what, guys? Until next time. See ya.
Peace.